Everyone has definitely experienced anxiety. We worry when we have to face exams, when we have a job interview, when we have to pay bills, even when we have to interact with other people. Anxiety is generally normal, but it is different if the feeling of anxiety is continuous and occur for no apparent reason. When is anxiety not just a feeling that comes and goes, but a serious illness? Let's get started. See the difference between anxiety and fear. If we think of fear as our feeling when fighting, then anxiety is our feelings on the night before the fight. Fear is generated by a clear threat that is in front of our eyes, while anxiety arises as a result of something that will happen, a threat that is not in front of the eyes but might have to be faced at a later date. There are two parts of the brain that have a role in triggering feelings of anxiety, namely the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Just imagine the amygdala and prefrontal cortex as two lighthouse attendants. The amygdala monitors threats and the prefrontal cortex will confirm whether there really is a threat or not. But for some people, this part of the brain is not functioning properly. The amygdala is too sensitive and will see threats everywhere. Moreover, the prefrontal cortex is ineffective in determining threats. It is this change in the brain that causes a number of anxiety or anxiety disorders. There are a number of mental disorders which is included in anxiety disorder. PTSD and OCD also used to be included in this category, but since the release of DSM-V, they are now in its own category. For this video, we will only discuss about generalized anxiety disorder or ZAD. So, what exactly is the difference between ordinary anxiety and ZAD? For people with generalized anxiety disorder or ZAD, the feeling of anxiety they experience must appear consistently for at least 6 months. The anxiety will be very difficult to control and accompanied by other symptoms such as difficult sleep, muscle aches, and stomach aches. The biggest differentiating factor is that the anxiety experienced people with GAD must be excessive. In that sense, the threats they face is nothing or not comparable to the anxious response they feel. Humans, as a very complex living creature, can perceive many things as threat. Take for example social media. The phenomenon of the modern world is the trigger for the recent increase in GAD cases. It makes sense because for primitive humans, if someone is ostracized from his group, he might die. And now, with the existence of media social, the feeling of anxiety becomes more increasing. We can feel alone, isolated, and even humiliated. People with GAD, these feelings become increasingly unstoppable. The point is, anxiety disorder is not the fault of the sufferer. Try asking yourself. For example, if you saw a disabled person, would you say to him, "Why are you always in a wheelchair? Why don't you just walk?" Just like people with anxiety disorder, what they experience is something that is real and they cannot just ignore it. Therefore, rather than making them increasingly drown in a sea of anxiety, we better give them validation and support so that the world they face becomes a little better friendly. Thanks all for this video. Bye bye. And for people with GAD, these feelings become increasingly unstoppable. The point is, anxiety disorder is not the fault of the sufferer. Try asking yourself. For example, if you saw a disabled person, would you say to him, "Why are you always in a wheelchair? Why don't you just walk?" Just like people with anxiety disorder, what they experience is something that is real and they cannot just ignore it. Therefore, rather than making them increasingly drown in a sea of anxiety, we better give them validation and support so that the world they face becomes a little better friendly. Thanks all for this video. Bye bye. Thank you.